Are you tired of living in houses like this where you have to even mine out your door with cobblestone because you don't even have one, and putting away all your stuff in super unorganized chests and everything? Well guys, I'm going to show you in this video how to improve your building and enhance your skills on how to make a better house. Now what I have in front of me is a little bit of an improved version of the dirt hut. It's just simply a box with a cone on top. Now, really, it's a simple design that even anyone can do. It's literally just some wooden pillars in the corners here, with wood type for choice for all of your walls and roof, and some glass panes for your windows. There's not any interior. I'm not going to be focusing on the interior for these, or it will get a little bit too complex for all of you noobs out there. I will, on the other hand, focus on the interior in the next phase, which is starting now. Alright, so now in this phase, we're going to have a little bit more of a complex build. This is just going to have a little bit more shape than the other one, and it's not going to stray too far away from that design. It's just going to have a little bit more shape than the other one, as I just said. So that your house doesn't just look like a plain old box, why don't you add maybe a little bit of a room, like right here, or another little spot over here for maybe an extension for your bedroom. Maybe another little extension right here for a little bit more storage for some chests. So just build those little pillars up a little bit. You don't need to extend them all the way. And well, why don't we construct all the walls and fill us in? Alright, so now that we got all the walls done, why don't we place in our door here, and then let's place in ourselves a little bit of a roof. So we should probably start here on the edge so that we get a little bit of an overhang, like that. And let's place in some slabs here to have a little bit more shape, and then some normal spruce planks, like so. And let's make sure this overhangs the edge so that it doesn't look a little weird for the pillar there. And then let's place some slabs there. There we go. We got a nice smooth shape there for the roof. So now let's do the other part here. So we're basically going to do the same thing on this side. And that looks decent enough to look presentable. If you want to add a little bit more detail, you could even plop in some stairs here. But that's a little bit too advanced, so we'll just get rid of those. And then the top here, I think we're gonna have to extend the main building by 1 block so that the roof here would work and does not mesh with the other roofs that we have going on. And let's do one last roof here. Alright, so now we got some nice roofs on our little bit of extensions of the house. So now we should be able to make the... Oh, yeah, actually, you know what? Let's extend that roof one more time, because all of these stairs would actually end up touching the tops of these roofs, which would not look too good. So let's do this. Alright. So now we can place all the stairs, like so. So now we got ourselves some nice roofs, and to add a little bit of depth, we're just going to have a simple little entrance for our door here by using some trapdoors and a little bit of slabs on top, like that. And yeah, I think that's pretty nice for a little bit of a more complex build. So now we are going to just do a little bit of interior. So why don't we actually, well, place a window in here. This is definitely not a finished build if we don't place a window in here. Alright, there we go. Alright, so what are we thinking for the floors? Well, everything is darker here. So to brighten things up and add a little bit of contrast, I think we're going to have maybe some oak planks. Or actually, to mix things up a little bit so it's not all the same texture, we're gonna do some stripped oak logs. This is a very good block to use for a lot of different things, really, and flooring is definitely one of them. Alright, so let's place all these wooden bits in. The only thing about using stripped oak planks, or stripped oak logs I mean, is that it does get rather expensive if you have a larger build. So just make sure you guys gather a lot of logs, because having a larger space can definitely add up really quickly of how much logs you're going to end up needing to build this flooring. So make sure you guys gather as many logs as you think you need, depending on how big your base it is. So let's get a little bit of interior going here. We got our bedroom. Like we said, we're going to make this a little bit of a bedroom. So let's grab our bed of choice. I think red one would be pretty nice. So let's get that. And to have some starter decorations, just some barrels. Adds a little bit of a nice texture. And maybe some flower pots to brighten things up. You know, put like a sapling or two inside, or flower of choice, either one. And to also brighten up the flooring a little bit, to make things a little bit different for the bedroom itself, why don't we add maybe a matching wool color to the bed, and actually replace the flooring underneath the bed to the red carpet, or red wool, so that it merges really well with the carpet. There we go. And now moving on to the closet here. To actually make it seem like it's a separate little closet, we're going to close this off. So we're going to grab some trapdoors, close them this way, and then we are going to add some doors. There we go. And why don't we actually do some barrels to mix things up, rather than having chests, because, well, there's a storage room right there, so, you know, mix things up a little bit. Alright, so maybe actually have a few gizmos to craft things in here. So maybe like a photography table, since we don't have any space, and maybe an anvil. Yeah, that's good. Just some like simple and basic things that you would probably need to craft up some things. And why don't we place in some torches right here for some lighting. Alright, that looks pretty nice. And also, you know what, probably should get a lantern in here, so let's put that right about there. That looks good. Alright, so moving on to the storage room area, I think we should put the chest sideways so we have as much condensed space as possible, so we can get as much storage as possible into this room. I'm just putting them sideways like so. Alright, there we go. And then if you guys do not have enough of leather to make all of the item frames so you can have a sorting system of sorts, then you can simply just use signs and just type out, I don't know, food or cobblestone to sort out all of your blocks. So now obviously you're probably thinking, we definitely do not have a kitchen. So since this is a little bit of a compact area and we do have a little bit of free space, we can definitely squeeze in some blast furnaces, normal furnaces, and some smokers. This isn't obviously going to look aesthetically pleasing, but we can put some furnaces right here, some blast furnaces in the middle, and some smokers like so, and then we could probably add a barrel in here, maybe holding our fuel, like coal or charcoal, or whatever you're using. And then maybe like a spruce slab on top to level things out a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks nice. And to add a little bit more lighting in the area, let's add one lantern there, and maybe to make this storage room a little bit more different, let's change how tall this roofing is. There you go. Now it seems like these are like separate rooms here. Yeah. Alright, so this is what we got for our little bit more complex version of a house. So we got ourselves a bedroom like we just created 2 seconds ago, with some nice pottery and plants inside. And then if we turn around, we got ourselves a little bit of a cooking and smelting area with a little barrel for some fuel storage. And then to our left, we got ourselves a storage system with a little bit of organization going on here with some signs or item frames, which you can just simply just put whatever thing you're sorting inside of here on the item frames. So like if you're putting redstone or copper, like I have here in the example. And yeah, I think this storage system came out nice. But anyway, moving on, behind me we got a little bit of a closet to store away some extra miscellaneous items. And also we got ourselves a cartography table and anvil. Just some things that we might need that quite don't fit the aesthetic that we're looking at here for the build, just to have a little bit of a hidey area for them. So I think that was a good start for a little bit more of a complex build. Now let's move on to a little bit more intricate design. Now honestly, I really do think that the design that we literally have right now is fine, and we could honestly just keep on upgrading this design and making it more intricate, just so that we don't have to waste so much time making a whole entire new build, and it just gets more complicated for you guys to understand. So just to make things a little bit simpler, let's just keep on upgrading this build as we go through some phases of intricacy. So the next phase of leveling up your building skills is definitely figuring out a little bit more better of a color palette. So we definitely want a little bit more of some highlights in this build because, well, right now we only have 2 colors going on. We just have a lighter brown and a darker brown for the wooden beams here. So to mix things up a little bit, I think we should probably have maybe some different tones of brown or lighter tones. And actually we can add a little bit of a trim going around the roof here to mix up the colors and break up some things a little bit. So now we got ourselves a little bit of a more rustic vibe going on with the tuff. There we go. So now this looks definitely a lot better. So let me do that to all the rest of the roofs and get that done. Alright, so now we did that to every single individual roof that we have here, and I think that looks pretty nice. Now I do think, actually, to make things look a little bit better and more connected, I think we should actually add a trim to all the edges of the roofs too. Alright, yeah, that really helps out a lot. Yep, for sure. And I forgot spot, whoops. There we go. Alright, so yeah, that definitely helps out a lot. Now, I think the roof should be good for now. We'll get a little bit more into detail in a later phase. But to add a little bit more detail to this huge blank spot here, I think we should actually add a little bit more structure and support. So why don't we add another beam going like that, stretching all the way across the build here. There we go. Alright, we got the beam stretching all the way across, and that definitely looks a little bit more supported, and makes the build a little bit more intricate. Yeah, I don't really think there's any other thing to add on the outside, so let's move on to the interior. So I think the best thing to do to take up a lot of this dead space in the roof here, or in the ceiling, sorry, is to actually add a little bit of wooden beams like this. So we're gonna place some slabs like this, and then some wooden beams going like that. Actually, we should probably connect these to some sort of something to make some sense out of it. So maybe we actually have these running this way, like this, since there's some wooden beams coming out of the wall here. Yeah. So just to have a little bit of a more intricate ceiling, just put down some wooden slabs like this, and some wooden beams like that. It will also keep some of the sunlight from seeping through the slabs too. And yeah, I think that definitely helps out the build a lot, and adds a little bit more depth into the inside. Alright, so I don't think there's really any other details to do inside here, so I think we're going to move on to the next phase. Alright, so the next phase is basically going to be a little bit more detail into your build. I don't mean literally just adding another, thing or two. I'm talking about actually texturing. So I think actually all the shapes and everything that we have here going on is all good, but it does still seem a little bit bland. So to fix this up, we're going to add a little bit more texture to the roof and walls and everything to make things to feel a little bit more alive, and also make it feel a little bit more realistic too. We're going to mix in some tough brick stairs and normal tough slabs like this in certain spots, just to break up the polished bits here. So let's actually place a little bit more of this brick like that. Alright guys, so we finished all the texturing on the roof, and as you can see, it definitely adds a lot more intricacy and detail to the build. Now, since we added this texturing, the rest of the build actually doesn't even fit at all, and it really feels like it's like standing out for some reason. Well, that's because now that we did all this intricacy and everything on the top of the build, now the walls and everything like that feels really flat and bland. So now we're gonna have to actually add some detail to the wooden beams and walls. So by adding some little bit of pop of color, by maybe replacing some of these with some oak wood beams and some stripped spruce logs, then we're definitely going to get some more balance here with the texturing. So now, as you can see, things are starting to come together a little bit better. So let's do that to the rest of the wooden beams that we got. Alright, so now we finished the texturing on all the wooden beams. Now to make these blend a little bit better, we're going to add some wooden signs on the beams that stretch all the way across here, just to make things blend a little bit better, because I noticed that it's a little bit of a jump on the colors there. It doesn't blend insanely well. It's where it's like unnoticeable to the eye, So we're just gonna add some signs there to make that blend a little bit better. I think that made things a bit better. Okay, so now that we got all of the beams done, why don't we move on to the walls? Now, there's not much we can do to the spruce planks themselves, But there is one trick that is pretty useful, is to actually take the backside of a barrel. This only works with spruce planks, but by having the backside of the barrel, it actually looks like a little bit more intricate design of a spruce plank. But we're not going to do that because, well, these are walls, and you'll see the other side of the barrel from the inside. So we're not going to do that trick, but what we can do is add a little bit of a trim that goes all the way around with some deep slate and tough, maybe, to add a little bit more of a darker tone to things, since we added some lighter stuff in here. So like this, let's add all the tough and everything and deep slate to the bottom bit of the wall, just to add a little bit of a supporting vibe to the build. Alright, and there you go. As you can tell, it definitely adds a lot to the build. So I do think some of these signs are a little bit too much because, well, for some reason, Vibrant Visuals makes them insanely bright. I don't know why. It's kind of weird. So I think I'm just going to get rid of these guys. Alright, so moving on. I think the outside is complete, but the inside could use a little bit more hominess or some cozy items. So let's actually add in some paintings and even some item frames to mix up a little bit of the shapes and everything. So let's do this. Oh, what? Wow, these are some large paintings. I'm trying to get a 2x2 painting here. That's decent enough. Alright, so let's add some item frames around it, and it actually just looks like abstract art. And maybe actually a campfire would actually do us some well here. Now, if you guys did not know, obviously I'm not going to put a campfire inside of here, but to make it seem like a little bit of a wood pile, to have to burn all the wood and then make a little bit of a fire for the fuel that we're going to need for the smokers and whatever for winter, or, you know, that kind of vibe. You can just put it out with a shovel, the campfire, to make a little bit of a wood pile, and it ends up coming out pretty cool. So you can put those like next to fireplaces and stuff like that, but I just have it here to represent, like, if I'm going to put some wood into some smokers, or to smelt up some food or iron or whatever I am smelting. So yeah, that's another cool detail that you can do. Another thing that you can do to smoothen out some wooden beams and everything is to add a little bit of depth with some trapdoors or some stairs to make a little bit of like an archway. Actually, like, we can take some stairs here and some more trapdoors to add a little bit of an archway. There we go. That looks pretty nice. And maybe, no, we can't do that here with the chests here, because they won't be able to open. But we can do it a little bit here, so we can add stairs there. But sadly, we cannot put trap drawers here because, well, you wouldn't be able to place your item frames. So yeah, I think that's all the details that we could probably do inside of here. And I'm pretty sure, guys, that you just made it through all the phases to improve your building. So with all that being said, I hope you guys learned something and you're inspired by some of the stuff that I built in this little tips and trick episode / tutorial / improving your skills on building. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and if you guys are new here, make sure you guys like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.